Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Manoj Reddy. So today we'll be continuing with part 3 of PYQ analysis. So this technique is finding the extreme words. So let's try to understand this through an example. India accounts for very large portion of all equity option contracts traded globally, thus exhibiting a great boom. And so all is a red flag. So first thing is we need to identify any red flags are there. So, and one more thing, one more caution which an aspirant should keep in mind is if he or she identifies a red flag, it doesn't mean that always this red flag statement is wrong. This caution has to be kept in mind. So, rather than assuming that it is wrong, an aspirant should become cautious. So, let's see the second statement. India's stock market has grown rapidly in the recent past, even overtaking Hong Kong at some point of time. So they're saying some point of time. So even if it is for a duration of 1 second, this statement becomes correct. So there is a high chance that India's stock market would have at least for 1 second overtaken Hong Kong. So I'm considering this as correct statement. So then there is no regulatory body either to warn the small investors about the risks of option trading or to act on unregistered financial advisories in this regard. So this is definitely not correct statement because we do have SEBI to regulate that. So no regulatory body is a red flag. No is a red flag. So and if you eliminate 3, we got the answer. So this is how extreme words, identifying extreme words at times might help us. Next question. So in the context of the effect of water on the rocks, chalk is known as a very permeable rock, whereas clay is known as quite impermeable or least permeable rock. So this is a 3 statement based question. That means the first statement is a fact. So we should not waste time in analyzing the correctness of the statement. So because this statement is correct. So now we should use this knowledge or information in the first statement in statement 2 and statement 3. So the second statement says chalk, they've talked about chalk, is porous and hence can absorb water. Yes, here they've talked about permeability. So permeability and porosity, technically they may be different, but there is a similarity between both. So both are related to the movement of water within the material. So the statement is correct. Then clay is not at all porous. See, not at all is a red flag, extreme word. So be cautious. And they're saying it is not porous. So here they are saying, in the first statement, they're saying clay is known as quite an impermeable or least permeable. They're saying that some sort of permeability is there, but it is least. So as we have established a relation between permeability and porosity, that they're more or less quite similar. So this statement becomes wrong. If this statement is wrong, the answer, the option is missing here. So it has A, B, C and D is missing. So accordingly, one will be able to easily identify the answer. So let's go to the next question. Consider the following statements about International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. So even if an aspirant doesn't know what IBRD is, so with identifying the words and seeing the pattern, he'll be able to identify the answer from this. So let's try to answer. So it provides loans and guarantees to middle income countries. Okay. Next option. It works single-handedly to help developing countries to reduce poverty. Single-handedly is a red flag. It is an extreme statement. Okay, so let's see the next option. It was established to help Europe rebuild after World War II. So if an aspirant is good at her basics, so first statement and third statement becomes correct because it is a fact. But the second statement, they are saying that this organization single-handedly. So there cannot be any organization which can single-handedly help reduce poverty. So as a result, this becomes extreme statement. So eliminate 2. We got the answer. Answer is C. So we'll go to the next question. Next question. With reference to Indian polity, consider the following statements. So this technique is not a foolproof technique. And I would like to mention this foolproof aspect here only. I should have mentioned this in the first slide itself, but nevertheless I will tell what it is. So the techniques which we are using is not all the techniques which we are using is not completely foolproof. Doesn't mean that wherever you apply this particular technique, so it doesn't mean that every answer becomes correct. So our idea is to maximize the score or the attempt. So our objective is not to get 180 or 200 for 200. So our objective is to get anywhere between 120 for 200, because so you'll be able to even write IFoS mains as well as CSE. So the idea is, so if we use this technique, so there is a very high chance that out of 10 times, 7 times will arrive at an answer. So don't consider that this statement is a foolproof. So this question is an example in order to explain you that this is not a foolproof technique. So let's read the question. With reference to Indian polity, consider the following statements. An ordinance can amend any central act. So any is a red flag. Then an ordinance can abridge a fundamental right. So we know from a fact that it cannot abridge a fundamental right. An ordinance can come into effect from the backdate. This is also correct. And in fact, any is there. So any is a red flag. So we should be cautious, and at times there is a very chance that this statement becomes wrong, but here it is correct. So answer is 1 and 3. So basically the idea is to make you people understand that this is not a foolproof, but these techniques could be used to maximize our score. So our objective is to maximize our score, not to get 200 after 200, rather it should be around 120. So the next technique is identifying the trap. So there is a misconception among aspirants that UPSC puts trap in each and every statement. So as a result, there is a tendency by aspirants to mark even the generic and simple options as incorrect. So let us try to identify where UPSC can put a trap. So this question, here they are saying that the Reserve Bank of India mandates all the listed companies in India to submit a business responsibility and sustainability report. So this statement is talking about some organization is doing some work, and we have identified one red flag, that is all. So it doesn't mean that the statement is wrong, rather one should be cautious. So there is a tendency that if an organization is given, so there is a tendency that this organization might be wrong, not necessarily always. So see, this can be a trap. So if this organization is replaced by Press Bureau of India or any other organization, then easily the statement can become wrong. So basically this is a trap. So answer should be SEBI, not RBI, because they're talking about listed companies. Okay. Then second statement is, in India, the company submitting BRSR makes disclosures in a report that are largely non-financial nature. So largely is a green flag. Green flag is opposite to red flag. That means there is a tendency that the statement can become correct. It can become correct. opposite to green flag, opposite to red flag. So they are largely non-financial nature. So if you see the full form of BRSR, so they're talking about responsibility and sustainability. So this is more of the governance aspect, corporate governance. So as a result, they are non-financial in nature. So even this statement is correct, this is wrong. So the trap is not putting anything at any place. Rather, strategically UPSC places a trap in these kinds of questions. Okay. Next question. This is a geography based question. So the amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in subtropical and temperate areas than in equatorial and polar regions. So if they remove, if they can easily put a trap here by replacing more with less. So this is a trap. Then the second statement is subtropical and temperate areas have less drive-ins. Again, less could be replaced by more. So this is how traps are introduced. I would be ending the part 3 here. So in part 4, so I would be discussing few other questions as well. And thank you all for being a patient listeners. So please let me know your views in the comment section. If you feel that this video has added some value to your preparation, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you again. Jai Hind.